It's Saturday evening. It's time to talk about the very best comic books in the world to buy this week. And with us, as always, is our good friend Drew. How you doing, Drew?
Doing great, Wes. It's a beautiful day here in Indy. Let's talk about some beautiful comics this week.
Well, let's talk about some grade A disappointment. You know, it's so hard to buy into Marvel and DC because it feels like they never can see anything through. Even a 12-issue maxi series from freaking Joe Casey with Dave McDade on art, Kneel Before Zod. I was really into it. You know, it is a little bit odd. It goes in some directions I never expected, but the art is dope. The story that they were building up was really cool. You end up with Zod accumulating this big army that he's going to do something with. We just have the rug pulled out from underneath us this week. It's apparently over 4 issues early. Never has an ending.
Yeah, I was upset. I couldn't believe it. I get to the end of it. I'm like, whoa, wait, that's it? And you can't end it there. And it was incredibly angering and disappointing because it was great having a book like this because it wasn't really attached to anything else yet, at least. I mean, we're led to believe maybe by the end of the series it's going to lead to something big or huge, you know, maybe in the Superman titles, but we'll never get that now. And it's unfortunate because, this took us in place. This comic book took us in places we weren't expecting, and I enjoyed it all the more for it. The art was solid. It is a very rare book. And DC, they messed up big time with this.
Joe Casey takes on, brings him to his lowest, kills off Ursa, swears revenge, goes out there, gets burnt to a crisp, ends up being held captive, comes back stronger and better than ever, ends up taking out the Emerald Empress. And then we get this big confrontation with Sinestro, the red Sinestro that we're getting in Green Lantern right now. So there is even a little connectivity to what's going on DC Comics, like mainline timeline and everything. So this stuff was planned out. And then he finally overcomes his mental issues or his emotional issues with Jor-El, cast that away from him. Feels like he's bigger and badder than ever, gonna finally go out there and seek revenge for Ursa. And that's the end of the book. This is why nobody can buy into you guys. You can't even fold through on a freaking 12-issue maxi series with an awesome creative team like this. Bullshit.
It is total bullshit. And when you see them greenlighting all these other stupid projects and ideas like Gotham City Sirens and any other tie-in with Absolute Power, it's like, or anything written by Leah Williams. What the hell is wrong with you guys? Who the hell is calling the shots over here? Whoever made the decision to cut this early, they should be fired. This was a serious misfire. They had gold here, and they didn't realize it, didn't know it, didn't see it. But let's just tell a goofy ladies having fun with horsey story. Yeah, no thanks.
Major league disappointment on my part. I kind of invested in the series, and once again, they just kind of let you down. Fortunately, indie comic books are still out there, and we certainly have more indie recommendations than Marvel or DC this week. And let's get into those, starting out with Prodigy Slaves of Mars, #1, Mark Millar, writing Stefano Landini, on art, the third chapter in the Prodigy series that Mark has created in Miller World. And basically, all hell breaks loose in Edison's life. Everything is falling down around him. We learn that his father appears that he's had a suicide, but he's really been murdered because of something that happened on Mars. And Edison ends up having to turn to somebody that I think he never really wanted to talk to again. Really great stuff, bringing down the hero to his lowest level possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And bringing in, not unfamiliar story elements. Like you said, there's a familial element in this where it's like, well, wait, what? He has a what? And it eventually, it pays off at the end of the book with who this character is. It's like, oh, interesting. I wasn't expecting this at all. But Mark Millar does a great job of breaking down, Prodigy's, his whole world. Everything is gone by almost the midpoint of this book. Everything he had is gone, and he's at his lowest. He gets desperate, and I love it all. I love Mark's storytelling all the more for that, because you get very invested emotionally into this character, and you really hope that he can survive. He can overcome these downfalls, these pitfalls, and I can't wait for the second issue. This is a terrific read. Mark Millar, once again, he's textbook example of how comic books should be written.
Absolutely. There is only one Mark Millar out there, and he's still bringing the heat. Basically, every single month right now, we're going to end up with 5 new titles out of Dark Horse this year. Very exciting stuff. Moving over to Kosher Mafia #1. David is on writing, Sammy Cavella on art. This was a title I wasn't really looking forward to, but somebody had mentioned you might want to check this out. It's got the guy that's riding Nottingham. But once I get into the beginning part and you see this guy, he's decided he wants to leave, doesn't want to be the bookmaker for the Jewish mob anymore. And he's basically about to lose his life because he's taken a stance against something that they don't really want to stand against. I'm like, oh, I know where this story's going to go. He's going to do this and this. That is not what this story is. We end up getting a very unlikely alliance by the end. It had some feels of almost like a road to perdition by the end. It is a period piece exploring something that I've never really looked at in my life. And I just found it very enthralling, and I'm very excited to see where this thing goes.
It really has me curious to do more research into this. I haven't had a chance, shame on me for doing more research to see just how much truth is based on is this story based from, because I guarantee you there's a certain degree of truth from this. Maybe in the Cleveland, Ohio area, because there's a big Jewish population there in Cleveland. But yeah, I was not expecting this story to be this engaging to me. David, he's a great writer, but a topic like this, it's like it could be really hit or miss, and more often miss than hit. And yeah, he makes it a very fun and engaging story because, like I said, it's a certain time period in America, and you would think this group that they focus on, they'd be all for trying to stop this new element, that's rising. They're like, nope, we're not. It's like, what? And yeah, what happens to the bookmaker, and what happens by the end of this issue with him, and who he ends up meeting. I'm all for it. Let's see what happens next. This is good. And David Hazan, one of the great indie writers right now, right? Nottingham, and now this. I can't wait for issue 2. Check out Kosher Mafia, guys. You will be very surprised how good this issue is.
Probably flying underneath the radar, but if you're an indie fan, you like period pieces, if you like crime dramas, definitely check out Kosher Mafia #1. You will not regret it, from Mad Cave. We've also got Canto, A Place Like Home #3, David Booher writing, Drew Zucker on art. And it felt like in this issue specifically that we're coming to the very end of this story. And I think that was confirmed this week within the solicitations for Dark Horse. And we start out, we've got this big battle going on in Arcadia. We've got the 10 men basically standing up for themselves with unlikely backup in there. Everything kind of coming to a head. And then we kind of take a little step back, learn a little bit more about the Shrouded Man, that we don't know everything about his story, how he ended up being a person that removed his own heart because he never wanted to feel again. It's an all ages comic book, and I think we should be getting more things like this. Drew Zucker is absolutely awesome on the art. I'm really enjoying this one. I'm glad that it's coming to an end. I think Canto is going to have a very nice landing on this one, and I cannot wait to see what these guys do next.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I wasn't the biggest fan of Canto. Like the concept of the character looked kind of silly to me when several years ago. But because of you, Wes, I'm actually starting to check out more of these back issues of this, because it actually does sound pretty interesting, and it's a very compelling character. And yeah, I do like the backstory that they're telling of the evil sorcerer in his past. It's good stuff. And what's set up here at the end, the cliffhanger of this, we're getting an ending, and it sounds like it may be a very tragic ending. Hopefully not, but hey, a story like this, they tend to have tragic endings, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, this is a very fun read. If you're a Canto fan, I'm sure you'll enjoy this issue very much. If you were a non-believer like me, yeah, this could probably convert you like it has for me. Do check out Canto, guys. It's a very, very surprisingly fun read.
And as I mentioned earlier, this is an all-ages comic book, but Booher and Zucker are not afraid to challenge children and throw some tragedy in there. He's already lost a lot of friends and family along the way, and it's almost like the way they treated children's entertainment in the 80s and 90s. Yes, bad things happen to good people, and that's kind of part of the storytelling. Really enjoy that one. Next up, Space Ghost #4, David Pepos writing, Jonathan Lau on art. I kind of like the first issue. I like the second issue more. I like the third issue more. And I like the fourth issue the absolute most. This thing is balls to the wall, action-packed, things going off the rails, Zorak arriving, and probably the most horrifying version of Zorak I've ever seen. And the art by Jonathan Lau just ends up being spectacular. And I did not realize I was a Space Ghost fan. I've known of the character, but I've never actually read any of his stories, saw the cartoons or anything like this. But this is really, really drawing me in. Job well done by David Pepos. And thank you to Dynamite for actually investing in the interior of the book and the story being told.
Yeah, it's a shocking concept, isn't it, Wes? Focusing on the interiors of a book as opposed to just a variant cover. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, David Pepos. We've given him some... We've held his feet to the fire in the past for what he did to The Punisher and a few other titles. But here, he's done a terrific job here with Space Ghost. And each issue, I agree, has gotten better. And this is by far the best issue of the series. And honestly, I'm going to say probably my favorite issue of the week that I read. I had a blast with this. And like you said, setting up Zorak as this huge villain, what he does setting him up, he's terrifying. And I would not want to come across him. He's more than the punchline he was on Space Ghost Coast to Coast. If you want to see him for the threat he is, read this, and you'll see how insane he is. And I love the Batman. It's a Batman and Robin, Space Ghost, and the Minions type relationship here, where he tells them, "Hey, be safe, stay here, don't go out there." But they're kids; they don't listen, and they may end up paying a price for it. But we'll see what happens. This is a very fun story. If you're not familiar with Space Ghost, check this out. It's a great jumping on point. And if you love Space Ghost, I'm sure you'll continue to be a fan of this series. This is a terrific read.
A job well done. Didn't see this one coming, and I'm really loving Space Ghost. Really awesome series. It gets better and better. That will do it for our indie comic books. And you mentioned that Space Ghost was your pick of the week. Me personally, I think Marvel Comics Wolverine Deep Cut #2 from Chris Claremont and Edgar Salazar was my pick of the week. But it was really close to the top 3 with Space Ghost, Wolverine Deep Cut, and The Boy Wonder #4. I thought they were all extremely high quality. But I am absolutely loving this story. Chris Claremont has edited himself down to where they're explaining what the Marauders are and the history of Wolverine and how he got to this point in a very brief but very understandable way, really setting up all the action. And you get some really badass fight scenes with Wolverine as the Marauders almost end up toying with him, which ends up being kind of their undoing by the end. But really cool stuff here, and an amazing reveal by the end that really throws the Marauders off kilter. They were not expecting to discover what Wolverine shows them.
Yeah, and I do want to compliment the artist here. It's Edgar Salazar. He's a terrific artist. He does a phenomenal job here. He did a phenomenal job with issue 1. Does a terrific job here. Although I will say it does seem like a couple of the fight sequences later on in the issue, they seem like I would have made them more dynamic. I don't want to say they look generic panels, but like they could have been a little bit better. But that's just me. But anyway, regardless, it is still a very fun and engaging issue. And yeah, like Chris Claremont does a terrific job of reintroducing people to the Marauders, showing their history. He kind of does it in, I think, a double splash page is what it is, just kind of showing them their backstory, what all they've done to Wolverine and the X-Men, and how much of a legitimate danger that they are. And that's what you want to do. You want to feel like there's a danger here that our heroes may not be triumphant over the villain. And is Wolverine triumphant? You got to read to find out. And but like you said, by the end of this issue, we find out there's another familiar X-Men villain that Wolverine would have to be coming up against in the subsequent issue. And I can't wait for that. That should be a very, very fun issue. Hopefully very bloody and graphic like the past couple issues have been. Wolverine Deep Cut, probably by far one of the, if not the best from the X-Men line right now. And Chris Claremont showing you how to do it right.
Definitely the best X-Men comic book out there. And if you like Wolverine and you felt like there aren't good stories out there, go check this out, and certainly go check out Wolverine Madripoor Nights from the same creative team that preceded this one. Both really good stories. Loving that one. We've also got Spider-Man Reign 2, #2, Carrie Andrews writing and illustrating. I wasn't as much on board with the first issue, and I'm still not quite to the it's a hot book. I definitely recommend it. But I'm starting to feel Spider-Man Reign 2 here. While I think the story itself is very manic and wacky and so far out there, it's kind of hard to get your head around. There's something about the art and the energy in this book that is 100% infectious. It reads like it's 2 pages. It's so fast because the art just pulls you along. The story makes you come along and you read it as fast as humanly possible because of all the insane things that are going on. And Peter Parker returning, looking for MJ, and basically taking no prisoners on the way to finding her. And then you get a big reveal at the end. But while I still think the story is a little bit too out there, issue #2 almost completely changed my mind because I was just like, I can't believe I'm fully investing into this story, even though it's so weird.
I agree, Wes. This story is wild. It's weird. It's crazy. And we have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about where he's at specifically. Why are certain characters missing? Why is this character now overtaken by this familiar element? But regardless of that, I'm going to go along with the ride because I trust Carrie Andrews. I trust him to hopefully provide those answers later on in the series. But like you said, the art in this series, in this issue, is flipping phenomenal. I'm comparing him to Todd McFarlane right now. You go back to look at Todd McFarlane's art on Amazing Spider-Man or just the Spider-Man title he did. His page layout, his design, how you were engaged. Your eyes were engaged, which is how beautiful the layouts of the pages were. That's what Kerry Andrews is doing here. His page layouts are beautiful, dynamic, and honestly, if there are any physical copies of pages of this left, I want to try to get a couple of these because there's one or two here. How he draws Spider-Man's face, I absolutely love it, and he is a terrific storyteller. He's only getting better, and it's got me all on board for issue number 3. This is if you're not a big Spider-Man fan like me, he's not my favorite hero. I love this, and I think this may make a believer out of any of those who are not that big Spider-Man fans. Do check this out, guys. This will surprise you how fun Spider-Man can be. In my opinion, probably the best Spider-Man book out right now.
It's definitely starting to give me Batman Reptilian vibes with Garth Ennis and Liam Sharp on there. To where eventually I threw my hands up and said, "Screw it! I don't care how weird it is. It's got me in here." And I'm almost to that point with Spider-Man Reign 2. Very interesting stuff there. Absolutely balls to the wall. Crazy comic book. We do have one book from DC to recommend this week. The Boy Wonder #4, Junie Ball writing and illustrating. I still don't know why it's a Black Label comic book. I don't know why they didn't release this as like a YA graphic novel. It would have been the perfect introduction to Damian. This week, they come back with the relationship between Damian and Talia al Ghul. He tells it in such an amazing way, not just with the words and the using like kind of fairy tale language and things of that nature, but also the art itself to really explore the tragedy of Damian. You know, he's not just a little shit. He's not just a murderous little child. He's somebody that was used for a purpose and abused by, you know, his mother and his grandfather, and finally got to go back to his a father and see life in a different light, and then was brought back and was going to be essentially sacrificed, and his grandpa was going to use his body as a vessel. And his mother loved him enough, knowing that he was kind of turning on the family, to kind of help him in that. And you also see Talia in a completely different light as a loving mother. She's not perfect. You know, obviously, she's got her foils and everything, but you never really see her as somebody that loves Damian. And you get that in here. And I think if you're going to be writing Damian moving forward, I wish people would use this kind of template when it comes to him and his relationship with his family, because I thought it was completely compelling and just really, I don't want to say heartwarming, but it did make me feel something.
I think you said it right there, Wes. It's heartwarming because honestly, I'm trying to go through while reading this, I was trying to go through my memory Rolodex, the past instances of them retelling Damian's origin and his family, and none of them really felt, like you said, that warm. Everything felt cold, you know, reading his past. But here, yeah, the creator here, he does a great job of bringing, you know, making that story very heartwarming. And I agree, this should have been a young adult story. I really feel like preteens would really, really engage with it, be engaged with the story. And, you know, and hey, I got kind of engaged with it too. I'm not the biggest fan of the art. It felt someone trying to ape Mike Mignola, but that's just my opinion. The art is okay. But yeah, how he tells the story, like I said, the page layout, the design, I really enjoyed it. And if you're not familiar with Damian Wayne and his backstory, how jacked up it is. It really is a messed up story. What happened to him? It does a great job of introducing you to that element. And I agree with you. This is a very, very solid, good issue. And it's got me kind of wanting to check out the previous issues, because I didn't check out the previous issues. So I'm going to do that probably this weekend.
I would definitely recommend it. It really fleshes out the relationship he has with Dick, and then Jason Todd. Then the third one, it's Tim Drake. Now they move on to his mother. Next issue, I believe the final issue, will actually be Batman himself. And it's really doing a good job encompassing that, really telling all these stories from Damian's perspective and how he felt about it. And I really do think it's fleshing the character out in magnificent form. Don't know why it's Black Label, still don't know why, but it's a book worth reading. And I think he's done a really, really good job. And I do believe the art style, while not typical in Marvel or DC or mainstream comic books, does grow on you over time. A huge recommendation for that one. Now, we did break some news on the Comics Aficionados today, Drew. You and Aaron Sparrow have a special project that's going to be coming out at New York Comic Con exclusive?
That is correct. New York Comic Con exclusive. Juan Jose Reap, the legend, the Juan Jose Reap who worked on Wolverine Blood Hunt this past summer. He did this beautiful cover for us. It is a joint Unholy Nightmare Kneel Before Doomface cover he's done. So it's going to be a double-sized preview edition of Kneel Before Doomface, and you should be getting the full issue of Unholy Nightmare in this book. So you'll be getting every bang for your buck. 2 solid stories and a Juan Jose Reap cover. This is a thrill of a lifetime for me to be able to get him on a cover, and to be working with Aaron Sparrow on this. You guys do not want to miss out on this if you're at New York Comic Con. This should be the hottest book of the show.
Definitely want to say thank you very much to Drew for talking about that and breaking it with Aaron. Congratulations to them. Definitely, if you're going to be at New York Comic Con, be looking out for that. And certainly be looking out for these videos so you can find the very best comic books of the week. I hope you enjoyed this. We do a bigger version of this, but on Patreon. If you like what we're doing here, if you want to support us, you go to Patreon, you support the Docker's right tier, and you get the Hot or Not Comic Rundown with Jim, where we cover everything, whether it's good, bad, or in between, and really help you find out what books are really going to be there for you, whether it be Marvel, DC, or any comic books. If you haven't checked that out, there's a link in the video description to the Patreon, and I do hope to see you there.